You're listening to the Built in Barcelona podcast with Kris Rawcliffe. Welcome back to Built in Barcelona, the podcast where we dive into the startups, stories, and life in this incredible city. I'm Kris Rawcliffe, and in each episode, I speak with people that are building, leading, and shaping the Barcelona tech ecosystem. Today's guest is Rakan Sleiman, General Manager of UNITH, an AI company developing conversational AI and digital humans that are changing how businesses interact with customers. Rakan joined UNITH nearly 2 years ago as VP of Product and now leads the company globally. A while ago, he studied a PhD of computational physics at the University of Manchester and worked in London for Hewlett-Packard before moving to Girona here in Catalonia with his Catalan wife. We're going to talk about AI, leadership, growing teams in Barcelona, and what it's like to build a career and raise a family here in Catalonia. Rakan, great to have you here.
Thank you, Kris. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time. So yeah, let's dive into it. It seems that you've lived in a few different places. What was it that brought you to Catalonia in the first place?
Probably similar to you, Kris. Love. Yeah, so I met my wife in London 12 years ago. She's from Catalonia. She's from Girona. So we decided to move here, I think around 8 years ago now.
Okay.
Just because we had a kid. We both have had and continue to have very time-consuming jobs. And her parents are here, so we needed some help. So we thought we'd come as close as possible to her family.
So I've also been here around 8 years. And did you move from London straight to Girona, or did you live in Barcelona first?
The plan was to live in Barcelona. We probably touched base in Barcelona, but I think my wife always had it in her mindset that Girona was the place to be.
Okay. Yeah, Girona is it's a beautiful city. I've been there a couple of times. Last time actually for a cycling trip. And it's just so set up for cyclists. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's a really beautiful, beautiful city. What's it like living there and raising a family there?
Calm. It's definitely, and part of the reason why we're here is because it's just way more calm than a city like Barcelona. You got nature literally everywhere you look. It's 5-minute walk from my house and I'm pretty much in the countryside, surrounded by hills, surrounded by mountains. Very strong sense of community over here, which is something that we were looking for and continue to enjoy being part of. It feels like a big town. You know a lot of people. When you go out, you see people, everybody knows your kids' names. Everybody knows your names. And it's in many ways like it's almost in a weird way like stepping back into the past, because the old town is very much like a medieval city. And it's very, very well preserved. So if you just taking a walk through the old town in itself is just always refreshing and peaceful, and a nice way to just disconnect a bit from the hectic nature of at least the work part of our days.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I have the same sensation when I go to where my wife grew up, which is Tarragona, which is the other direction to the south of Barcelona. And again, that's like a very beautiful city, very relaxed. It's like a smaller version of Barcelona, basically. Way more chilled, less tourists, has all the Roman ruins. And that what you said about sort of stepping back in time, you really do feel that as you look out over the amphitheater.
Yeah.
And you have the sea in the back. You can just imagine what it would have been like in Roman times. And you get like all the beauty of kind of the Barcelona Gothic area, but in a much more relaxed sense. And every time I go there, I say to my wife, like, if we did need to move here at some point, I think I'd be okay with it. Like, I really like it.
We visited Tarragona about 3 months ago now, and I thought exactly the same thing. I was like, okay, we live in Girona. I work in Barcelona. I probably wouldn't want to live in Barcelona, but if I was to pick another town or another small city to live in, Tarragona would probably be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just just to connect back into Girona, I think it's a huge city for cycling. Like this is something that since I've come, like it feels like summer on summer, spring on spring, like more and more cyclists are coming, more and more people come here just because of how like beautiful the countryside is and how easy it is to get from the city onto the hills.
Yeah.
Yeah, so your history in cycling, you should be coming here more often,
I
Kris.
know, I know. There are some like world famous climbs just outside Girona, and I think because of that, a number of professional cyclists
Yeah,
live there.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's just so well equipped. I mean, you go there as a cyclist, it's like the Mecca. You know,
yeah,
all the hotels have a bike room, all the cafes you can, there's bike
yeah.
storage. You see people what looks like somebody commuting to their job on like a 5,000 euro bike. It's like bike porn everywhere. It's just like amazing, amazing bikes everywhere you look. It's yeah. If you're into cycling, Girona is an absolute must.
Yeah, yeah. And the food scene is also
Mm,
very, very big here. Some of the best restaurants in the world are here as well. So it's
yeah,
got a bit of everything.
yeah, and also lovely for you having the family connection there as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, big family connection. And as I go back, it's that you feel like you are part of a big family. Just your kids going to school, like it's great. Like everyone knows everybody. Everybody
Yeah,
helps everybody. It's a nice feeling.
yeah, that's lovely. And you said obviously you're working in Barcelona. How often are you coming through to Barcelona?
I typically go between 1 and 3 days a week.
Okay.
I'm there every Wednesday because that's kind of like an official office day. We try and encourage the team to be in the office. And then I go Tuesdays or Thursdays, depending on clients, meetings, feeling, school pickups.
If life doesn't get in the way. So how did you first get involved with UNITH? Like what made you excited to join the company?
So I think just the space more than anything. My previous company was very much an AI first company, but it was kind of like almost legacy AI versus the AI that everybody's used to today, and my feeling, not my feeling of a fact was every single one of our clients, which were pretty much all global pharmaceutical businesses, every single one of them was asking us like, where's the AI? Where's the AI? Where's the AI? And we were like, everything that we're serving to you is AI,
Mm,
like, and it was a lot of like decision support. So like, what's the next best action to perform to deliver some in trying to educate somebody, let's say. But the whole like mindset had changed in the sense that ChatGPT had exploded. Everybody had seen this new form of AI and everybody was expecting this in their product. So it just made me start to look around for other types of companies in Barcelona that were in this space, and UNITH popped up to me. I literally went on the website. I was like, wow, this is the future. Literally was the thought in my head. They're a small company trying to play in a huge, huge industry, and I want to be part of it. So I literally wrote in. I literally sent an email just saying, hey, I'm interested in what you guys are doing. And we had a conversation.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. No, it's funny because when I first came across Unith, I had the same perception actually. Like, wow, this looks like exactly where the whole world is going, and this is a very futuristic offering, and it was very exciting to see. For listeners who maybe aren't familiar with Unith, what does Unith do?
So we create digital humans, conversational digital humans, which in many ways are, let's say, a human interface on top of your AI systems that people are used to. So it could look like me. In fact, there's one that looks just like me. And that instead of Kris interviewing me, Kris could interview the digital version of me.
Maybe we should have done that.
Yeah, I was literally thinking maybe I should bring him in here because he's a different person. My kids go wild when they see the version.
Really?
It's kind of, I'm always like, well, how much should I let them actually see or speak to this? But it's not
Yeah.
me. I'm very much like tuned to the fact that it's not actually me. What's great about these digital humans is that they can represent your business, right? They can be trained on your knowledge and they can be set up to communicate with your audience the way you want, consistently, reliably, available anytime, and most importantly, in real time. In the sense that it's a real conversation. You can ask it a question and it can answer back to you. Um, yeah, and you know what I say, like it's when I saw it the first time, it was like looking in the future. I think that stays true, and I think that's one of the great things. Like we're always thinking, of a future where you interact with AI in a very different way than most people are used to.
you have some preset ones, right? Which are like people that you've created. And
Absolutely.
then you can also create replicas of actual people. So you have one. I know that your HR leader also has her own version of herself to do onboarding and that type of thing.
Absolutely. The only one who doesn't have one, Kris, I think, is you, and you need to get one.
Yeah, I would love. Yeah, that would be amazing to do this podcast with my digital version of myself.
Today, the vast majority of digital humans in our platform are real people that have been effectively like copied or cloned to have a digital version of themselves. We have, with all the ones that are part of, let's say, our out of the box library of digital humans, we have contracts with these people. We actually know these people. We've met them, and we've kind of filmed them to bring them into the system. There is like a changing. There's kind of the ability now to not use real people. There's the ability to kind of use AI to actually generate the face from scratch, and it's one of the things that we're thinking about. Do we allow the total creation of like a new digital human? Like, I'm looking for somebody who can represent my brand, who has brown eyes, long hair, and you just define like the characteristics of what you want them to look like, and then they would appear there.
Okay.
So we're also seeing demand for that. And part of the reason why there's demand for that is because, one, it's hard to find people to film who want to be filmed. And two, it's just easier. It's literally easier. Like, to just spell out what you want,
No, I can imagine the market for that actually, because a while ago I was talking to a different kind of generative AI company that was focused more on phone calls. So automating inbound or outbound calls, like sales calls or customer service calls for clients. And one thing they were saying is like, oh, you can just pick somebody in the organization that has the accent that you want. Let's say if they're here in Barcelona and you want somebody that has a really great, clear Catalan accent from Barcelona, just pick somebody in the team that has that and we'll replicate their voice. And when I was speaking to people here, they're like, well, no one in the company wants to be the voice of
Yeah.
the company.
Yeah, that is a challenge.
Yeah.
That is a challenge, which is why it's important to have out of the box faces and voices. And in our platform, we've got 1,000 voices that are there. But many times, even though you got 1,000 voices, you still can't find the right one. And incidentally, one of the things that our product manager is pushing us for is to say that, in the same way of like, type the face you want, we should be able to say type or explain the voice you want. Like, I want an energetic, friendly, Catalan accented English speaking voice. And then the voice gets generated for you there and then. And that bypasses the need to actually find the right voice in the business. And these are technologies that we don't necessarily own, but we partner with providers that have that capability. And in our mind, it's like, how natively do we bring that into our product? And there's a bit of work that needs to happen to actually do that. That's where we see things going.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you say, I think with the speed that the AI market is shifting, better to partner with people that are building out those solutions than try and build it in-house, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest, I wouldn't say it's like an opportunity and a challenge. It's like this ongoing review of what to buy versus what to build.
Yeah, I can imagine. What are the kind of typical use cases then? So when you're working with your end clients, what are they normally using digital humans for?
It's a difficult question because I think everybody very quickly wants to use digital humans to do everything, right? And we are trying to get people to learn how to start a little bit on the simple side with things that we know every business would like. Most businesses struggle to quite simply explain to the world what they do in a consistent way. So having like a brand ambassador, somebody that you land on somebody's website and it can welcome you and just say like, hey, I'm so-and-so, welcome to UNITH. How can I help you? Oh, tell me a little bit more about UNITH. UNITH is a company that helps businesses such as yourself create digital humans that can speak to prospective audiences. This kind of brand ambassador presence, we see a lot of it. And the brand ambassador, in many ways, evolves into a bit of a sales agent. and evolves a little bit into like a customer service representative, where people, existing customers, may come and be like, how do I find information about your API? Or do you have an API? Yeah, we have an API. This is the documentation site. And we'll like move them over to other assets that you want your audience to know about. Or people might be interested in, how do I get on board? How do I buy this thing? How much does it cost? All sorts of things. And it can help, like coordinate a lot of those inbound questions with the real people
Yeah.
on sites. We loosely call it brand ambassador, but it's kind of this like external facing representative of your business that is helping deliver this message. And then we see um, it's a huge investment to hire people, and getting the maximum value out of these people, and making these people get the maximum value out of you is often like underlooked, and using digital humans as a mechanism of just welcoming people to the business, onboarding them on like company policies, the employee handbook, all things you want them to be aware of, the different tools that they use to get their work done. So we see a lot of appetite for this, so much so that we actually use it. So every new employee in UNITH goes through like a UNITH digital human onboarding them, which we feel brings a level of consistency. Everybody gets that same message. And then finally, and I think this is probably the biggest one, it's loosely in the category of just like training, right? But I call it like real time, like role playing led training. So you're a salesperson. You're hired to sell this product. You're going to get a lot of objections, and when you're trying to sell this product, so the digital human plays the role of the person you're selling to, and your sales agent is speaking to the digital human, and just going through like a typical conversation. We see this with training salespeople. We see this with training medical professionals. We see this with training students, like students who are going through university. They will actually have a conversation with a digital human, where the digital human it could be a patient if it's a medical student, speaking with an example patient. Like at the end of it, when you look across all of our use cases, it's all about delivering the right information to the right people in the right way, when they need it, where they need it.
In a slightly more human way as well, right? Like, not, it is AI, but it has a human face and a voice, and you get a little bit more that closeness to feeling like you're having a conversation with somebody, as opposed to a chatbot, or like, speaking with ChatGPT, for example, where you're communicating via writing, or that type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's what we like. I forget when I read this quite a while ago, and it really stuck to me. Like, humans are hardwired to interact and see and speak to faces. Like, from the moment people are born to the moment they die, like the first thing they see is human face, all the way up at the very end of their life. They're typically around their loved ones, and they're looking at faces. And we really do believe, by just having that face there and having it being the interface to interact with AI, actually helps drive up the engagement of people actually speaking with or interacting with AIs.
Yeah. No, I can completely imagine that, and particularly in some of those touch points you were talking about, where like, take onboarding new employees to a company, right? Like, actually, I went out for some drinks with a client of mine last night that's a complete remote company. So they're a remote first company, and I met up with the founder, as well as somebody that I've actually helped recruit recently, like one of the developers. And we went out for a few drinks last night here in Barcelona, and we were talking about, how's been the onboarding experience, because what's it like onboarding to a company completely remotely, where you don't even live in the same city as a number of the people that are in the company. And he had a good experience, but it's the type of thing that, if there was a digital human version of the founder, let's say, that this person could have kind of a, as you say, like a very methodical onboarding experience that's the same for every single employee. First of all, it frees up the team. It means the founder doesn't have to be on those calls all the time, because he's a busy guy. And it also gives like one step closer to that kind of like connection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in my previous company, we were, I don't know, like hiring 30, 40 people, new people every quarter. And the onboarding was actually flying everybody to San Francisco.
Wow.
And it was a week onboarding, and it took loads of effort to prepare the onboarding, loads of effort to run the onboarding. The CEO was involved, CTO was involved, founder was involved. And it was a great onboarding, right? But being able to free up some of that time, I think, has immeasurable like benefits to it. But many times there's also the option of like a hybrid approach where it kind of like tops up, like you can do a real onboarding, and you probably should do a real onboarding, but maybe it's an hour or a couple of hours meeting. You take people through some high level stuff, and then it's supplemented with a digital human or a digital version of whoever they want to represent the brand, or several of them. And then there's also the idea of it's not once and forget. Like I think many people just get onboarded into businesses and then that's it, they're onboarded. But people forget the stuff that they hear in their first week. And being able at any time to just go back to HR or go back to the CEO or go back to whoever and just like ask a question or be reminded of something is something that these digital humans enable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a whole feedback loop, which like we are in many ways, these digital humans are, to use a buzzword like agentic. When you go through an onboarding or whatever with a digital human, it can give feedback. It can give feedback to the person it's speaking to. It can then give feedback to the hiring manager, to the HR manager. This person went through, has completed their onboarding. They asked a lot of questions about this specific topic. We may want to think about, reinforced
Yeah.
learning on this topic, etc. So that's something that we spend a lot of time thinking about in UNITH. Like, how do we ensure that feedback loop, that the digital human is connected with systems that it needs to be connected to, so that all other business stakeholders are aware of those conversations.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can see that being absolutely critical to the success of these implementations. I did read earlier this month that you have just rolled out multilingual digital humans within a global pharma client. Can you tell me, like, what do those types of deployments look like?
So one great thing about actually working, I would say, with UNITH and with our technology is the process at the crux of it is the same all of the time, right? So actually deploying the digital human is very, very straightforward. The difficulty literally and it's similar with many other like AI solutions. The difficulty is aligning everybody on what exactly is the objective of this digital human. Like what is it supposed to do? And then getting all of the, let's say, training material in place to educate the digital human so that it can actually achieve that objective. So in the case of this global pharma, we were actually well aligned on what the objectives would be. And the challenge was literally like, okay, how do we now get all of the information in a way that is compliance approved? Like this is information that is true, and we are allowed to actually talk about. So a big part of the project was actually just preparing, if you like, the training data for the digital human, and then testing it and iterating with it so that it can work with the data in the right way, deliver the information with the right tone, asks the right follow-up questions, etc. And then that's like an iterative process, which is painful and time consuming, but is very, very valuable if you do it the right way. And in their case, their objective was very much similar to what I said earlier, like informing and guiding people, right? Like it's not always easy to understand how best to use a type of medication, like how do you educate a person versus a healthcare professional versus a specific type of healthcare professional? How you do each of that is different, right? Because the choice of words is different. But yeah, no, it's this project has been pretty a great learning experience for us, for them, and it's ongoing.
Very exciting. Well, it's a pharmaceutical company that I know well from my previous life. And yeah, very, very exciting project by the sounds of it. So yeah, really happy to hear that you guys are doing well there and really excited to see how all of that goes for you and the team. Speaking of the team, so you've obviously got an office here in Barcelona. You do also have an office in Amsterdam, and the company is headquartered in Australia, right? You're listed on the Australian Stock Exchange.
Yep. So
Yeah.
we're 20 of us in Barcelona. Then we've got a smaller team in Amsterdam that does. It's quite interesting. They do like direct to consumer apps that are built on top of the digital human platform that we build in the Barcelona office. And then we've got our company headquarters, our directors, executive team are based in Perth, in Australia.
Okay. And how's been the experience of building out a team here in Barcelona?
Great. I'm lucky that before UNITH was also like very involved in quite significant growth of team members in Barcelona. So like looking across the tech ecosystem, trying to find the right kind of talent. And I think there's no shortage of talent. I think like that's one of the challenges actually is you put a job spec out and just filtering through and trying to find the right person is not easy. You don't want to miss out on the right person as well. And that's one of the things that I'm always thinking about. Like no shortage of ambition, like people who coming through the door and just really, really, really want to do a great job. And I think that's fundamental, especially when you're a startup and you really do need people to kind of push and think creative and not let setbacks, hold them back. But yeah, no, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I also love the fact that, unlike in the UK, the team and me including cherish our lunch breaks. So we take like a good 1 hour, sometimes a bit longer. We take a break. We make sure we disconnect a little bit before we come and take the second half of the day.
Yeah, and that it's funny you say that. Actually, that was one of the big things that I really noticed when I first moved here was the kind of how almost like sacrosanct the lunch break is. Like in the UK, when you're working in London, for example, you grab a sandwich on the way to your next meeting, or you eat at your desk whilst you're catching up on emails. And I remember when I first joined the company I worked for when I first moved here. And I was busy. I had a lot going on. So I would just be, I'd go and grab something and I'd be sat at my computer and people would come over to me like with genuine concern and be like, what are you doing? Like, I was like, oh no, I don't have time for lunch today. They're like, you have 5 minutes, even 5 minutes, get up from your computer and come to the dining table with everybody. And it was so lovely because even if you only had 10 minutes because you were busy or whatever, you still sort of separated and went and sat and spoke to people. And I think that's just such a lovely part of the culture here is that meal times mean something more than just shoving food in your face.
Absolutely. And I have to like confess, sometimes I go to the office and I opt out, right? And it's so clear to me at the end of the day, like the days that I'm just at a much better like state of mind and more like is the days where I actually took the break. We went for a lunch break, versus the days where you just like powered through the whole time.
I think the relationship with food here is totally different. Like, and I really feel it when I go back to the UK now, just socially, right? Like in the UK, we socialize around the pub having drinks, and you'll be sort of 5 pints in before you think, oh, I should probably have something to eat. Whereas in Spain, it just does not work like that. It's you meet to eat, and you have a few drinks around the meal. And that is just such a different relationship with food.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And so, I mean, Barcelona is very famous for sort of tech talent, I think. And I would say maybe historically more focused towards mobile innovation, right? Because they had Mobile World Congress and you had a lot of mobile agencies here, web agencies. How do you view kind of the AI talent pool in the city?
More and more people want to be involved. Our most recent hire, literally like a year ago, decided he wants to be involved in AI. Right. So like, and I see this very clearly, like many people are stopping the point in time and saying, okay, this is the future. I need to start investing in this. I'm going to take a master's. I'm going to start learning. I'm going to find a company that is in this space so that I can continue developing. So I think there's a sufficient, so that as I come back, like every job role and job spec that we've put out has oversubscribed. If you use that word, it's like way too many people applying for it, but I don't think the whole ecosystem in the AI fully appreciates what the new roles will look like, right? So I think there will be new types of jobs that are created that we still don't, we may be doing them in some way or form, but we just haven't put like a very clear title on top of it. And I think that will come. But yeah, and then I think also there's a whole like, and just thinking of my previous job and the challenge that I mentioned with like getting the right data, like the problems still exist of like data engineering, right? Like people who need to be able to access, extract, prepare data, connect two systems together. Like these are roles that I think they have existed and will continue to exist. They may use different tools, but there's never been I've never seen a shortage of that in Barcelona, at least on the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, and I guess with AI being so new in many respects, or particularly sort of generative AI, right? Like it must be, to your point around receiving oversubscription of applications, with a lot of people that are hungry to enter the market. But yeah, it must be quite difficult to find the people that genuinely do have AI experience, because now there's so much of these kind of, vibe coding platforms that, you can use a bit of AI and create something.
On the technical side, our recruitment process is quite, I would say, tough in the sense that a lot of the more senior developers in our team have maybe the right word is concerns about vibe coding, right? And they want to bring people in the team who they know have a deep understanding of the technologies that we use. So apart from interviews, people get an assessment, and I'm going to say like 95% of the assessments get done using with vibe coding and generative AI tools. But we supplement that with like an actual interview where they have to talk through the code that they've prepared with our engineering team actually like scrutinizing the code. I would say our success rate is quite high in the sense of qualifying people who really have a deep understanding of software development that we work with. Your recruitment process is very important, in a lot of this, in ensuring that you get the people with the right level of experience. The flip side is you want people to be ready to adopt these new tools, which make us much more efficient in how we develop as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it, right? Like I think now in this field, a lot of it is having experience with a key tool set, but also showing that you're willing to learn new tools, because we don't know what's going to be available in 6 months, and the impact that can have. Basically, engineers these days need to be able to switch quite quickly to new platforms, new ways of doing things, because it all evolves so quickly.
Yep.
And are you currently hiring for people, or?
We are looking right now at a data engineering role, and I can explain a little. And the reason for this is actually because like we see a lot of appetite for businesses that we work with to be able to understand the conversations that are happening with the digital humans, because it's like a window into their customers, right? So there's a little bit of like looking for a role that'll help us optimize our whole data pipeline. And then on the other side, we would like to grow the AI team. We're not going to do that at this stage, but we're looking at a couple of interns that will come in and help us more with like training data sets used for AI models, used to optimize our AI models.
Okay. What would, like, when you're looking for people, what do you typically say is kind of unique about working for UNITH? What do you think makes it a great place to work?
I think first the people, and you can see this, like the team, when people join, they typically stay. I think the team really enjoy being here, and you can feel that you're working with people who really want to be here. I think that's one element. The second element is the space is just so exciting, and there's not many companies that do what we do in this space that has such a huge potential. The opportunity for each of us to grow is very, very high in UNITH, if we succeed. I think being in Barcelona is a massive, massive, massive We have people that apply to our jobs from outside and say we will move.
Yeah, it's never hard to convince people to come here. And you, I mean, mentioned sort of the AI being a really exciting space to be in. Obviously, there's a lot of noise around the industry at the moment. What do you think people misunderstand about it? What's kind of a common misconception that you see working on the inside when you see all the kind of hype around it?
I think it's important that people just remind themselves that it's not magic. It just feels like everybody now thinks it's magic and can do anything and everything. And the reality is it's not that way. And work does need to go into any AI system to make it a success. I see it all the time. Like, expect it will never say anything that's incorrect ever. But the reality is a lot of, even in ChatGPT, like a lot of hard work goes behind the scenes to put a bunch of guardrails around it to make it look and feel the way that it actually looks and feels.
Yeah, and I think also it's easy to forget that it's kind of almost seen as this all-knowing presence, right? That's like this omnipotent
Yeah.
being that you can ask anything to and it will give you the right answer. And I think people often forget that it's been built by a company and that that company will have certain biases, certain objectives that will influence the way in which the AI responds. And I had on one of the previous interviews I did on this podcast, spoke with somebody that's working in digital transformation. And we really talked about AI and how important it is to inject kind of core values and ethics early on in the process to make sure that you're actually training LLMs in a way that, you know, is going to garner the results that you're looking for. I mean, how do you see that?
I couldn't agree more. You know, and I think one of the problems is a lot of this generative AI stuff says it in such a matter of fact way that you believe it. You read it and you believe it. Yeah, and I think it comes back a little bit to the pharma example that I was giving you about earlier. You do need to put thought in how the message is delivered depending on who's consuming that message. And we spend a lot of time doing that. And a lot of that is invested a lot on the prompt engineering side and the guardrails that you put around it. And I think it always goes all the way back up to like, what is the objective of the solution that you're building? You know, we have a case, I think I could speak a little bit about this, where so we are in UNITH, we have like our default LLMs that we work with, but we are very modular in the sense that we let businesses pick and choose the LLMs that they want to use based on their own objectives that they're trying to achieve. But we had a business come to us saying they wanted to use one of these unhinged models. I don't know if you know much about it, but it's basically
I don't know.
the X Grok model, like they have an unhinged model, and there's others of these out there. They basically have no guardrails, so they can go as wild and as imaginative as they want. And they were saying they would like to use this model because they want to create quite a explicit, I think is the right word, kind of experience when people are speaking with some of their digital humans. And like on our side, we kind of said like, we won't do that, like on us, because these unhinged models, they could take you down the path of, for example, creating a gun, how to create a gun, or how to create a bomb, or how to convince somebody to commit suicide, or stuff like that. They can completely veer off course. And I think like as a business level, like we do put like those default models that we work with, we do put thought into which models would like we be willing to work with as well.
Yeah, it's kind of I mean it's fascinating, and I imagine that's really important when you're hiring people as well to ensure that you do share values and that there is a common value within the team. Because as you're creating these essentially beings in some respects, right? Like you create a digital human, you put the large language model in the background, you give it some training, and then it's off.
Yeah.
You know, then you know it's talking to people. If they put that on if your client puts that on a public facing website, it's having conversations with anybody that's interacting with it. And I think that the team that's putting that in place, you know, it must be really important that you're all pulling in the same direction with the same views. And
Yeah.
valued.
Absolutely. And one of our, I didn't, it's a level of detail that I was thinking not needed, but like in the setup of all projects, we go through this like fallback messaging that you want to have in place. And we basically agree with them, like the scope of the conversation and anything outside of fallback comes in. And what is that fallback? Like, if you ask a digital human who's Kris, it will say like, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to talk about any individuals because of privacy. It's fundamental to our implementation process on our side.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's quite a lot of responsibility as well, for the anybody working in this field now, to get that right.
Yeah. And it comes back into like that feedback loop, because being able to see that people come to UNITH and ask questions to our digital human that are perhaps outside of the scope of what we are comfortable with, right? And yes, the digital human might be like rejecting all of this stuff, but just being able to get that visibility could make us think like maybe we want the digital human to deliver us a different counter message to that kind of thing. Like we fundamentally do not agree or believe with these kinds of use of our technology or whatever. It's tough though.
Okay.
It's definitely tough. We get it all the time. Like how do you manage what the digital human says? How do you control it? How do you control that?
Yeah. And that's so difficult, right? Because on the one hand, the value of these solutions is that you don't have to program everything that they're going to say and think of every single scenario and come up with a script for that. But you also need to put some guardrails around it so that it doesn't end up having weird conversations.
It's crazy. It's actually crazy. I've seen some of our system prompts basically look like books, because what happens is people start to really think through. They want to start super loose, and then over time they start to be like, okay, actually we need to lock this down, lock this down, lock this down, lock this down. Yeah, so it can become quite messy. And then just thinking like
Yeah.
managing the changes around that. If you're using, for example, a model from OpenAI or from Google, they can upgrade their model. And then a lot of the things that you've put in place, all of a sudden you need to basically check that they're all still true for the,
Yeah.
you know?
Just breaks
Yeah.
everything.
It breaks. Yeah.
Like, thanks, Google. Appreciate that. Yeah. And so you mentioned that you get a lot of applicants from abroad, and I know that a number of your team are also moved to Barcelona for UNITH. Like, what advice would you give to somebody that's thinking of coming here to Catalonia and setting up a life here?
Just embrace it. I think. I think like I don't know. It's difficult because I just don't think I can tell anything to people that they would not have already been thinking about. Like it's an active society, like this is an active society. So like you're gonna be in Barcelona. You've got the beach there, beautiful, like running, like place to just go running by the sea in the morning. Like do that. The few times that I sleep in Barcelona, I always wake up in the morning and go for a run, by the coast,
Mm.
because it's just so beautiful. Get running shoes. Running is so big here. Get a bike, come to Girona,
Yeah.
cycle around Girona, cycle around like around Barcelona as well.
Yeah. Any hidden gem recommendations in either Barcelona or Girona, somewhere that you really love?
It's got to be food wise. I would say in Girona, there's a bar called San Pansar, which is incidentally like Basque pinchos kind of tapas food. So it's not actually like local cuisine, but it's just got a really good vibe. And then in Barcelona, I feel I just have to plug Zia Carolina, which is the pizzeria that we go to right next to our office, because they do
Okay.
amazing, amazing pizzas there. They're so big, such good value
They're
for money.
huge.
Yeah, we've eaten there a couple of times.
I'm surprised you're not plugging Bar Catalunya.
Bar Catalunya. That's true. That is true. When I eat
Mm,
there, it's kind of like my lunch can't be more than 30 minutes. I'm going there just to eat as quickly as possible and leave, because they serve such a good menu. It's such an affordable price, and it's one plate after the other.
yeah, and they have one of these like menu del dias,
Yeah.
right, for like
12
12
euros.
euros or
Yeah.
so, and you get the three courses and the coffee. And as you say, like it comes out very quickly. And I think that's quite an authentic
Yeah.
place. Like there's, now Barcelona being such a metropolitan city, it can in some ways feel like other cities in terms of, you've got all these kind of trendy restaurants that are serving poke bowls
Yeah.
and all the rest of it. And then I think places like Bar Catalunya are what Barcelona would have been like 20
Just
years ago. Yeah,
authentic local Catalan cuisine. Yeah.
yeah.
Simple, very, very simple. The place itself is very simple, but it's good. I enjoy that.
And how do you find being married into a Catalan family? Because obviously you and I share that experience.
Great. I can't say anything other than that. Recorded interview. But no, it's great. It's great. I like, there's so many cool things that I don't think people really appreciate. Like this exchange of languages as well between Catalan and Spanish. My wife's family is quite a big family, and literally they interchange between Spanish, Catalan, and it feels a bit different when they speak one versus the other. It's like they're pulling like the best of the languages of both. And
Yeah,
food is so, like whenever we meet with her family, it's like big lunches, they last not 1 or 2 hours, but 5, 6, 7 hours. There's starting with vermouth, then great wines, then gin tonics, then some like little pacharán.
like
Yeah,
Pacharan or
yeah.
something like that.
Afterwards, it's like literally like you don't know if you're eating or drinking, and the whole day's like just gone. And then it's 7, 8 p.m. and you're thinking, oh, it's usually on Sundays. So I'm like, oh God, I've got to somehow like prepare myself for a week
Yeah,
ahead of work. Yeah, no, but it's great, and they're just such good help. I play football. The football team that I found when I came here was because Anna's brother, like knew that I like football and went out of his way to find a team that.
yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like I have all the same experiences of with my wife's family. Like I think I love the long lunches, and like we now live in the same neighborhood as all her family, and we have help on tap whenever we need it, which is really lovely. And I actually, it's funny. I got invited to play football by her cousins a few weeks ago, who I didn't realize, but they're like 10 years younger than me, and we played a team that was like full of 19-year-olds. And let's say I've not been invited back to play football. Let's put it that way. But it was very sweet of them to involve me. But yeah, I think it is. They are wonderful people. I think like that until you get to know Catalan people, they can come across as a little bit guarded, a little bit cold in relation to some other places. But I think once you kind of crack in a little bit with them, then really you're friends for life. They take such good care of the people that are in their circles.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. But I also think that, and I feel this is the case everywhere in the sense that people appreciate people who make an effort. And I think I speak Catalan terribly, but I try. I try and and I think these things, they definitely help.
And I agree. Like I speak a few words of Catalan,
The
and
party trick.
I've mentioned this on previous episodes. Like it is so lovely when you say a few words, especially when you get out of Barcelona and you're in like deeper Catalonia, and people see like an English guy saying a few
Yeah,
words in Catalan. They go
yeah, yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
They just love it, and they're so warm and inviting. They're like, wow, like you said 3 words in my language.
yeah.
Like that's amazing, and it's really lovely, and they really do appreciate it, and you can see like the connection there is between their culture and their language, and how appreciative they are when somebody from outside shows an interest in that.
Yeah, yeah.
Looking ahead then, what's next for UNITH? What should we be looking out for in the next 6-12 months?
There's the standard, which is better, faster, more intelligent, which is, let's say, our standard like dimensions of our product that we're always trying to continuously improve. I think we also want to see digital humans everywhere. We want, when you go to a website, we want our digital humans to be there. So I think we also looking just to get more awareness of it. But I think the big change that we will be looking to drive is digital humans doing things for businesses. So digital humans like working together in a way that can help businesses achieve objectives. So like
Okay.
not every digital human maybe needs a face. You can ask our digital human on our website, can you prepare me a report? Yeah, just give me a second and we'll hand off the task to another digital human entity to actually perform that task. And then when it's ready, send it back. So we see like a web of them working together where they're kind of specialized and doing, each one doing different things. going back to like, it's not magic, and specializing them actually makes them operate better. In the same way, like no person can do everything. Like we kind of feel like having highly personalized, highly specific digital humans will help a lot. And then we're also making the platform more developer friendly as well. So this is something that we're slowly shifting towards, so that the new ecosystem of builders out there can easily build, like leveraging our technology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And where can people learn more about the company or connect with you?
Just UNITH.ai. I think there's a book a demo or contact us uh, form. If you go through there, somebody in our team will be straight out. You can find me, direct message me on LinkedIn. I'm looking to inform and educate as many people as possible about the potential of digital humans.
Very cool. No, well, I'll post those links along with this recording. And yeah, very exciting to see how that kind of agentic approach goes over the next 12 months. Obviously, be following closely the journey.
Awesome.
Is there anything that we haven't spoken about today that you think we should have done?
Partners?
Okay.
No, I don't. I was just gonna say, like, one part of it comes back into being more developer friendly, but we do get a lot of interest in people wanting to know how to sell our product, wanting to implement our product. So like be extended arms of us. And that's a type of business we're very, very excited to work with. Yeah.
Exciting. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for a great conversation. I think it's been really interesting. I think you guys are in a really exciting field and approaching it in a very unique and exciting way. Like I think, not just being kind of another conversational chatbot type company, but actually putting faces to the technology and delivering messages and content in a kind of bridge between the human and the AI, I think is really fascinating. So really excited to see how it all goes over the next few years.
Kris.
And that's it for this episode of Built in Barcelona. Big thanks to Rakan for joining me and sharing his journey. If you enjoyed the episode, please follow or subscribe wherever you're listening and share it with anybody that's curious about the tech scene here in Barcelona. You can find clips from this conversation and more over on LinkedIn. Just search for Built in Barcelona. Thanks for listening and see you next time. Rakan, thank
Thank
you.
you. See ya. Thanks, Kris.